Check one. Okay. Thanks again for everybody this afternoon today to the opportunity to speak. I'm here today to present on what we call improving HSE operations in the MENA region. And when we're talking about that, we want to lead in first with an introduction. So for those aren't aware, my name is Ian James Welsh. I'd like to extend appreciation to Intersec today for having myself here and all the speakers today for the chance to share knowledge to the wider HSE market. My background is I started in APAC region, high-risk operations of construction, facility management, manufacturing. Started on the tools as a tradesman myself before I transitioned into safety. I've continued after those first 10 years in operations. I went into APAC and MENA QHSE roles. So a bit of my background is from that. My LinkedIn profile is there. It's quite active for those that are familiar with it. By all means, please connect with it. But the purpose of today is that we're talking about how to improve MENA operations HSE compliance. So we'll be discussing the context, the strategy, the theory, and the research behind this presentation. We're going into a bit more details of coaching, engagement, and practicality in application. And we'll be closing out with authentic improvement and input. When we're talking about MENA HSE compliance, operational compliance, we need to talk about the context of what it is we're overseeing. It's a good chance to kind of have a refresh and a relook at it in a market that's grown so quickly and brought in so many levels of HSE standards. One thing that takes some time is growth and development within inside of a human culture. So even though we can bring in standards and designs and technology advances quite quickly, collectively the change in culture is much slower. So here we find a clash, and here we find the HSE professionals of the MENA region find themselves positioned. When we look at this structure here, you can see we have an expansive workforce from surrounding MENA nations of minimal HSE standards. This is not news to anybody, but it's a good chance to kind of reanalyze and take a fresher look at the wider market beyond our own role and beyond our own company, and understand the role that we play in the collective HSE compliance in the MENA region. So of course we have an extensively large workforce that have all come here for the same reasons, to improve their life and work in better working conditions. That doesn't necessarily always mean that they understand what those are. So from that level, then we have this middle tier, which is an extensive resource of highly technically trained HSE professionals, most of which are here in the room today, and most of which we all have colleagues of. There's a great resource here, and this is the focus of this presentation, this content, is that this resource is underutilized, and collectively as HSE leaders in the region, there's a lot better ways that we can be going about improving the utilization of these resources to ensure the safety of this workforce, which is again the purpose of what we're looking to achieve. At the bottom end here, we had a smaller network of leaders from local and international nations with higher HSE standards. So again, it's about utilization of the resources that we have here when we talk about operational compliance for health and safety in the region. We have an extensive workforce. We have a large body of agile and mobile and capable hands. We have a highly technically trained field of knowledge of experts and professionals. What we also have here, which is very fortunate, is we have a high selection of international and local leaders here in the MENA region. There's a certain level of excellence and knowledge that they've gained from international careers that they also have here. So it's about utilizing a strategy to put together all these resources in the further context of all these teams here and all of us here. We all work in a MENA nation. And all the MENA nations here have improvement visions, as you can see here. It's the number one tool and the most effective thing I find to create active culture change on any workplace, constructions, events, or any of the industries I've been fortunate enough to work in my years here in the MENA region, is reminding everybody of what we're all doing here. So the UAE, Saudi Arabia, every MENA nation has a vision for improvement, has a vision for improving the standards, has a vision for improving safety. You will see time and time again in every channel of media the promoting of how safe the MENA regions are. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the UAE, Riyadh, all of them are advocating for how safe this region actually is. But then all of us are here working in that environment. So the number one thing that I find most effective, whether you're talking to leaders, whether you're talking to HSE managers, or you're talking to the workforce, is to remind them what it is that the government and the rulers of this nation are looking for: the highest level of safety standards. Not only do we know that that's what they want, but because they communicate that so clearly, that's why we're all here. all of us understood this is the vision, this is the drive of this region, and all of us looking to strive for that in our own individual careers and our own influence on the field of operations that we're in, are looking to contribute to that. So it's about reminding that everybody has the same collective outcome here. But then the question is how? So to discuss and explain the theory a little bit further, as an initial theory was tested when I was running the COP28 project in 2023. You heard me mention it earlier before. So I was leader of the HSE department of 64 HSE professionals, primarily from the MENA region, a couple from APAC and a few from the UK. It's a small section of the team here. Well, this was an excellent opportunity to try and apply safety leadership through HSE professionals in a different approach. So what I took first was to get initial inputs from the staff on their previous HSE leaderships here in the region, and create some more bonded and trusted conversations about the truth of experience for HSE professionals here. And when I say HSE professionals, I'm talking about HSE engineers, officers, managers, the guys in the middle tier that have the direct interaction with the workforce, where we're looking to see that workforce uplift their operational compliance in HSE. It's the effectiveness of these HSE professionals in doing that job that we're looking to improve upon. In leading the team, I implemented what we call authentic leadership, which is leadership that actually knows that it's working and can measure and can prove it. And it was incredibly effective and resulted in a lot of good, consistent feedback from the team throughout the entire life of this project, which was running 24/7 with 3 separate teams across the project on Expo City Dubai and the Dubai World Trade Center exhibition center that was there. We got constant feedback from the team that the experience of leadership that I was providing with them in a different approach, in a considerate approach to try to improve each of these HSE professionals in their capability, was something they hadn't experienced as much. Now, we're not saying that this is a sweeping statement, but when we look at that pyramid before, it's about the rule of majority. There are some excellent companies here. There are some excellent HSE leaders here, and there are some high-achieving HSE professionals here in this region. But that's still a small percentage of the overall market. Inside this hall is filled with high-level operating HSE professionals and leaders of the like. But this event does not cover the entire market. We have construction projects throughout the entire MENA region that those HSE professionals don't ever get to come to something like this, don't ever get to work under leaders like people like us. But they are an interconnected network of HSE professionals. Everyone in this room has got a HSE manager or engineer they know that's working in a company that doesn't listen or doesn't have a culture, or they're struggling on site. These guys are the majority in our field of our profession, and they're extensively under-supported. To further evidence that, I conducted some current research. At the closing end of last year, while I was completing an MBA in leadership, I did a research dissertation specifically on the future needs for strategic leadership and coaching support of HSE management professionals in the MENA region, operating specifically in the UAE. But since this research was conducted, I've expanded it beyond to include the entire MENA region. Over 200 MENA professionals, from engineers, officers, administrators, leaders, directors of department were interviewed and were surveyed, and we got back some really interesting, transparent consistency results. One of which was that there's a knowledge gap of how to integrate corporate priorities within operations and HSE compliance. Lots of HSE managers here in the region, they sit in board meetings, they read the emails, they hear the presentations from the company of, these are the safety standards we're looking for. This is the highest level of, we want this safety achievement, end of presentation. They're left understanding, well, that's my job, but I don't know how to do that. There's an absence of strategic HSE leadership support available to the majority of operational HSE professionals. Again, as the majority is the key word here too. Lots of HSE professionals are lost out there in the wider industry because they don't have good leadership, because that just doesn't exist either in the company culture or even above them. They might be the only HSE manager in the company reporting directly to an operations director or something like this. So it's about understanding as effective and as fantastic progress that we have been making here in the region with high-level HSE companies and leaders. That's just a small part. And what we're finding with some feedback from the wider HSE professional network is it's a bit of an echo chamber. They're feeling a lot more lost and under-supported against all the other changes that we're seeing. So examples of strategic HSE leadership is only available to a small percentage of operational HSE professionals. This is the point that I was just continuing on with as one of the key collective findings coming out. is that there's some frustrations there. We're say 80% of HSE professionals here in the MENA region don't have access to an effective and present HSE director or company. It's not a slight on those companies. It's just understanding the breadth of companies and work that's out there, and then again the workforce that they're trying to keep safe. So this was a really interesting finding as well. And the final point was that there was a real need for strategic HSE leadership and coaching to improve HSE professionals' effectiveness. I've been fortunate enough to work in APAC regions and both in the MENA region. The drive and the passion for HSE professionals here is second to none. It's one thing to be a HSE professional in a Western nation that already has a high safety culture and a high safety system. But to come here into a region that is looking to uplift, that has a history of lower standards and a strive and a vision to reach higher standards, to come in and want to be involved in that and to deliver and support that. We have highly motivated, highly impassioned HSE professionals here that, again, unfortunately, are starting to feel like they're under-supported. So how can MENA HSE operation leaders improve operational compliance? This, again, is now we're talking to HSE directors, operational directors, those in which those HSE professionals report to or look to for leadership and guidance. So we want to start with a top-down approach, which requires ownership of leadership and responsibilities. It's about understanding if you're a working professional in senior management here and you have a HSE manager that reports into you, that manager needs to know, how do you want safety and health and safety implemented in the workplace? How do you want to achieve those things? They're looking for that guidance and that direction. And if we're not providing it, too often what happens is the HSE manager, HSE engineer has their qualifications, has their experience, and is just told, go do safety. And they don't know what that means or what that looks like, and they're left to interpret that on their own. And a big part of that is because, like Martin mentioned earlier, there's the absence of consultation. Maybe the operations manager doesn't know what that looks like, but if you have that leadership, that top-down approach, and engage with your HSE managers, they will inform you. They're the knowledgeable ones. They're the technical experts. They will explain to you how safety management works, what the effective tools are, and you can close that gap from the what to the how. The second step is what we call servant leadership, which model provides leaders with a method for effective mentoring. So servant leadership is understanding if you're fortunate enough to hold a leadership position in any company in this region or any other, you have a responsibility to those in which you lead. You have to be making sure that are they performing to the best of their ability? Are they improving in their capability? Because if they're not, then you're failing in the responsibilities of a leadership position. A leadership framework of coaching staff, encouraging engagement, and practical guidance. This is a 3-step process you can see on the final steps here of then how do we go about this improved leadership model to create better traction and communication with HSE professionals in the region, which leads to the improvements to both the immediate workplace and then the future market by ripple effect. Everyone here in this room, by the fact you even showed up today, as a leader in HSE compliance in the region. And it's about the communication and the impact that we have moving forward, the conversations we have with our peers and our colleagues, not just within our own company's policies and procedures, but it's how we're looking to improve and encourage other leaders that maybe aren't performing in that way, or other HSE managers that are struggling themselves. So we talk about coaching HSE professionals. The first step is to set a clear collective compliance strategy and subsequent goals. It's about being very clear on what it is we're actually looking to achieve. Vague statements of policy and statement are unhelpful, but being able to see, okay, this is the collective output that we're looking to achieve. For example, COP28 was saying that we wanted to achieve 0 incidents, which is a very common target and goal, but understanding that's the collective responsibility of the entire project team, not just the HSE team. It's a collective outcome of the entire project. We observe individual performance and empathetically identify improvements. This is when it starts to step up into how you are an effective leader. When we talk about authentic leadership, it's about identifying and observing your own team, all your resources. If you're fortunate enough to have several HSE staff, managers and engineers and officers inside of your teamwork, are you observing them individually? Can you identify what their strengths and their weaknesses are? And are you finding ways to close those gaps and improve that? And this is the approach we took at COP28 with a credo where I told the team when they started that no HSE professional works under my leadership and in my team and doesn't leave a better HSE professional than they did coming in. But that's my responsibility then to make sure that I'm practically and actively doing that and engaging that with the team. And it's about creating those relationships and that trust with the HSE professionals because they are resistant. They don't want to disclose maybe they have some knowledge gaps or some some capability, things that they'd like to improve. Our job as being responsible and leading those HSE managers here is about closing those gaps and having them improve it as well. Because if they improve better, then what they do in the workplace continues to improve. So we want to provide individual tailored coaching and support direction for HSE staff. Continuing on for the point I was just speaking on, in that once we identify, okay, well, what does this HSE manager need? Maybe they struggle in auditing. They've not ever had a lot of experience with it. It's my job as a HSE director or head of department to ensure I'm improving that HSE manager's knowledge and ability to perform auditing. I may have a HSE officer that's their first role working on a construction project. They may have come from oil and gas or manufacturing, and being on a construction site is intimidating or uncertain for them. They're not sure what they're looking for. It's my job then to make sure I'm conducting site safety walks with that person and pointing out, sharing my knowledge and my experience with them so that I can be entrusted and they feel confident to do that role themselves in this new environment. And acknowledge and affirm performance improvement directions and publicly. This is how you solidify these teachings and these things. Even if you take it on a one-on-one personal route with your HSE staff, and you identify their gaps, and you come up with a way to improve that for them. When they make those improvements, it's important to acknowledge that and create that affirmation. Acknowledge that you work together, you identify the strength, you saw them improve. It validates it, and it puts that process in place for continual improvement inside the individual themselves. But then also it's important to acknowledge it publicly within the team and within the company, because then it shows a great example of involved leadership, of showing them this is what's expected, this is what can be done, this was done, and this is what we want for everyone. And you'll see an immediate uplift and participation from everybody in this process. But that doesn't happen without somebody driving it, without an effective and present, authentic leader in a HSE position, whether it's the HSE director or it's the operations director if there is no HSE management. Because as we all know, a great saying I always say is, if you fired the HSE team tomorrow and they left, they don't take the HSE responsibilities with them. They still stay and remain in the company. So then who's now next in responsible for them? It usually always lands to the operations director. So when we say HSE leadership, we're not necessarily talking about HSE director. We're talking about whoever has the HSE leadership responsibilities inside the organization. To summarize this point, these 2 points here, I think, is the best example on the responsibility that befalls any person with a HSE leadership responsibility. Confucius says, if a craftsman wants to do good work, he must first sharpen his tools. If you're head of a HSE department, or you're responsible for a HSE department, if you're not ensuring those HSE managers and professionals are performing to the best of their capability and improving, you're not improving your HSE compliance on site. You're working with blunt tools. It's your responsibility to make sure that they're achieving better. And there's a great need and want from that resource base across the market, as the research now shows, that there's a need of them to want to learn. My favorite one is Abraham Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And again, that's a proactive leadership and responsibility. If we're making efforts to ensure that our resources, we're talking about people management and career development, it's not just the responsibility of HR. It's the responsibility of anybody who has the fortunate station of having HSE leadership responsibilities and accountability, that we make sure we're engaging more and more with improving HSE managers, rather than just expecting them to do the job and perform the HSE compliance just because they're technically qualified. The next step then, once we've worked with our resource and we've improved our staff, is what are we getting them to do? One of the biggest feedbacks came back from all the technical training when it comes to HSE, from all the different kinds of academic trainings, is all of them are very, very clear on what HSE management is. They rarely do they end in how. You get your certificate and safety manager know, okay, I'm NEBOSH, I'm IOSH, I'm IRSM qualified, and go do safety. And then you check the book and it doesn't tell you that how application, because this comes from on the job training and mentored and coaching support. So what we're looking to and what we're teaching and training our HSE managers to do, first step is always respect the work being done and the workers doing the work. Our responsibility is to make sure these workers are working safe and they're working in safe practices. If they don't feel like that they're respected in both what the toll of the work is, how hard the work is, what's required to do the work from them as individuals, as human beings, and the work itself, you're not going to be able to ever come up with a safe working practice, or one that they will actually adopt. They will be resistant, they won't listen. When the safety manager walks away, the unsafe work practices come back. So this is the first step of teaching and engaging genuine, authentic engagement for the work being done. Observe the work in action and understand the operational context. So once we have respect for the workers and the work that needs to be done, we need to see it in process. When you watch and you observe the work in practice, you can see the choices that the work crews are making and the decisions that they're making along the way. Are they cutting corners? Are they doing something unsafe because they think it's the quickest way of doing it? It's an absence of knowledge. It's not that they're coming here and they want to work unsafe or they're wanting to maintain unsafe work practices from their home nations. They may not even know how to work safer than what they already are. Already they are working in the safest environment they've ever known. So unless we're getting involved and instructing with respect and with engagement, we can't ask them to improve. When these workers improve their safe work practices, that's how we improve HSE compliance on an operational level for the MENA nation. These are the workers that achieve that, but they don't achieve it on their own. We need good leadership with good HSE management oversight and authentic workforce engagement. We need to approach the workers with empathetic engagement and support. It's one thing to stand over a different work crew from a different nation and tell them and scream safety standards at them or be super strict with them. If they don't actually feel like they're empathetically engaged and you care about them, then they won't implement any of that. I know Dr. Islam talked earlier today about care to lead as an approach. This is the continuation and practical application of that theory. It's about creating that empathetic engagement. How to do that is a challenging part here. One thing I always told my HSE staff when they say, I need you to go talk to the work crews, find out what it is they're doing, find out why they're working unsafe. And they say, they speak a different language. In health and safety, there is no language barrier. Safety is an intrinsic human language. If ever a safety manager or safety officer came to me and said, oh, I don't speak their language, I said, good, then go back and do it again, but don't open your mouth. And instruct them, show them what a safe work practice is without talking. Because if that's the barrier, okay, there's another way to communicate that. And you'll be amazed at how effective that is, because people start to think, well, okay, how would you instruct someone who doesn't speak your language to wear a seatbelt in a car? You would go with them to the car, you would sit in the car, you'd point at the seatbelt, you'd pull it, you put it in place, you tug on it and show that it would keep you safe. And then you take it out and you let them replicate the process and check that it's being done. This works for the same for any workplace activity there is. If the workers don't know how to do it, it's the responsibility of the HSE professional to make sure that they're showing and they're improving that compliance and that HSE performance. But they're only going to do it if they've been led and overseen and supported by the management team and instructed and told how to do it. From that process, you discuss with the workers the operational instructions and pressures and advocate the values of the higher HSE standards in the local MENA regions. It's about making sure that HSE visions, those safety standard visions of all the MENA nations, are being cascaded and communicated down to the workforce. Remind them that the reason why you're talking to them about wanting to change their work practices, as your job is to do, as is the company's responsibility to do, is because it's the directive of the country we're all working in. We're looking to help them achieve this standard by collectively all working together. Practical risk solutions come in a more applicant way of the HSE managers themselves to identify operational hazards with the highest likelihood of risk. You're not going to be able to fix everything all the time. Maybe the worker doesn't wear the hard hat all the time, but is there a risk of them being hit in the head, or is there a risk of unsafe practices injuring one of their co-workers? So about identifying the biggest risk in the room first and addressing that issue first until they can change that behavior. Assess immediate resources available to lower the likelihood of risk. One thing that happens here too, we all know too well, nothing stops progress, especially in the Middle East. Saying, well, I need you to pause work and go get the right scaffold tower. And the response is the contractor says, I don't have, it's at the warehouse. It will take 3 days from coming here. While that's all happening, we all know that work continues. On most of the majority of the projects that are here, that continues. So if we don't have immediate resources available and there's no way of preventing the job, what immediate resources do we have available in that immediate work zone to do it a little bit safer? Is there a ladder present? Is there a supervisor? Is there a spotter we can implement? There's always a safer way of doing something. Even if the highest level of risk control doesn't exist, that doesn't mean we just give up. We have to find a practical solution, and that's the responsibility of HSE professional on site in that consultation with the workforce to identify. But they're not going to do that if they haven't been trained or coached onto how to do it and encouraged that that's what's expected. By using the hands-on instruction to train workers in implementing controls, ties back to the seatbelt example I gave before. To observe and ensure workers integrating, maintaining the risk controls, and that the supervisors are improved on the risk controls. We need to make sure that Once those new safe work practices are in place, will they continue doing them that way? You stand back and you observe in person and you observe from afar, because we all know too well in lots of places around here, they work very safe. I find it myself when I walk on site, all work stops. Everybody stands to attention. The worker is, hi boss, how are you? They think they're going to be in trouble. I'm not. I'm there to help them work safer, but I can't do that if I don't see them working. So I know, well, so often my presence means I'm not going to get to observe that. So I need to go from afar, observe it from a different level of the site, observe it from one of my team members or something like that, to actually see, is it being implemented, and remind the supervisors overseeing them that just because the safety manager came and explained this is the safer way of doing it, doesn't mean now when he leaves, the supervisor says, okay, get back to work. We need to get this finished today. It's their responsibility to make sure that that gets maintained. When we talk about HSE, I like to alter the acronym to mean these three simple things. Workplace, in any workplace, HSE is these three key values. It's humanitarian, succinct, efficiency. It's not factoring this a humanitarian factor. We're looking to keep people safe. We're looking to ensure people's can maintain their employment, that they don't get injured, that there's no compliance issues with the company. Are we doing it succinctly? No one is going to follow a 30-page safety management plan, but they will follow a 3-paragraph instruction. So can we do it succinctly? If you can't explain it succinctly, then you don't understand it well enough. And again, this is the responsibility of the HSE professionals. And efficiency. HSE management should always be the lubricant to a well-running project, not a handbrake. If we're not managing our HSE risk planning and safety work practices efficiently, then we're going to be expelled and resisted from the operational delivery. And the last point that I lead on that we were talking about before is the continual compliance improvement and the responsibility and the effect that we can have as effective HSE leaders in the market. When we look at this ripple out effect, every HSE leader here has operational team dynamics, workplace HSE performance, company management systems, industry shared knowledge, regional adoption of standards. If you see here by this triangle, if you're one leader overseeing 3 managers or over 100 workforce for compliance standards in one industry, this is the level of influence you have. But each person in that ring knows people in the wider ring around. Your influence over your HSE managers will cascade over to other HSE managers in the region, and they'll want to improve it as well. This is how we understand that we work as a communal network of HSE professionals here, looking to uplift the standards together. We can't do it in isolation. We have to understand not only the responsibility and capability we have of working together, but the impact that we can have. And are we thinking wider than our own channels? Are we involving us in that? Ongoing industry support. Anybody who's interested in contributing to the standards and the research that we did, this QR code leads to a questionnaire that was the same questionnaire filled out by the HSE professionals that conducted in that research. We're just looking to create further input and understanding and tailor coaching and leadership response for everyone in the HSE market. I hope this has been very informal for all of you. It's certainly a passion project of mine. I'm here for the rest of the afternoon if anybody has any follow-up questions. Thank you very much.